Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the Maamar, Kein, Karu, Tafshin Yud Gimel, 1953. Why is Purim called Purim? This is part 6. We are holding in chapter 7 of this Maamar. So we learned about why is Purim called Purim, because of the poor, the raffle, the lottery that Haman cast to decide when he wanted to destroy the Jewish people. And we explained that this name is very significant because the whole idea of the miracle came because of this lottery that Haman did. Now, what is special about the lottery? And we said that this represents a very high level of godliness, a level where darkness and light is all the same, just like a lottery. You make a lottery, you choose, it's not a logical choice. It is something which is beyond logic, above logic. And we explained that Haman figured that by casting a lottery, he would reach a level of Hashem, that darkness and light is the same, and therefore he might as well bring darkness among the Jewish people, God forbid, to destroy them. And then, yesterday we learned in chapter 6, in Ois Vav, that we find a similar thing of Achashverosh. The king Achashverosh, the name is Achashverosh. And we find in the name Achashverosh two opposite explanations. What is Achashverosh? Medrash says Achashverosh is Zeh HaKadosh Baruch Hu, refers to God himself, She'achis Shaloi, the beginning and the end is his. On the other hand, we find Achashverosh is a reference to the fact that it was B'yom of Hushcheru Israel. And in these days, the Jewish people were darkened, meaning there was darkness for the Jewish people. It was terrible tragedies, sufferings, oppressions. So this is the total opposite. Ushchu pneim shel Israel b'yamav, it says. This is total opposite. And the answer we gave, that this is Achashverosh, refers to also the same idea that it is such a high level that on the one hand it can be HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and on the other hand there can be darkness. It is a level of godliness that is beyond the Seder Hishtalshelus, what mean the chain-like descend, the structure of this world. It is the light, the spiritual light that comes from much higher. So basically these two things are very similar. The concept of the lottery that Haman casted is similar to the concept of the state of the Jewish people by the time of Achashverosh. So the Rebbe now asks the question, if that is the case, if Achashverosh already in his time there was such a state of the event that took place there was that the Jewish people were oppressed. Why? Because the energy that came from Hashem at that time was from a higher level that allowed the Jewish people to suffer. If that is the case, then why did Haman need to do the raffle? Why did he need to do the lottery? The state of event was anyway in that state that the Jews were allowed to suffer. So the Rebbe is going to explain that from that state of level, what Achashverosh represents, suffering was okay, but not total annihilation. But Haman, God forbid, he wanted to completely destroy. In order to completely destroy, God forbid, the Jewish people, so he wanted to reach to yet a higher level within God where there is really no difference between good and bad. And he figured there he'll be able to bring, God forbid, destruction. So let's see inside. Ois Zayin. Says the Rebbe, V'yishloimer, הטעם על זה שאיפל פור בכדי להגיע לבחינס הגויר של המעלה משתלשלוס. It is possible to explain that the reason Haman cast a lot to reach the level of a lottery that transcends the Seder Ishtalshalus, that transcends the chain-like structure of this world. And the question is, why didn't he need to do it? אף שאז בימי אחשוורוש, גם קודם שהיפל פור, אויסה נוגה מצד למעלה משתלשלוס. Even though at that time, in the days of Achashverosh, even before Haman cast the lot, everything that transpired was controlled by godly light that transcends Seder Ishtalshalus, a level of which darkness and light are the same. And that is why Jews were allowed to go through the sufferings. So why does he need to make a lot in order to bring the decree upon the Jewish people? So the answer is, it is because the lottery represents a level, a rung that is loftier, even than the rung represented by Achashverosh. Why? Because what is Achashverosh? We said, Misha Achashverosh Sheloi, the one whom the end and the beginning belong. And the Rebbe explains why. What is the difference? Why is Achashverosh a lower level than the concept of a raffle? So he says, to explain this concept, the very fact that this level, this rung, is identified with Achashverosh, the one to whom the end and the beginning belong. This indicates that even on this level, the end and the beginning are recognized, and distinctions between them are acknowledged. What we're saying, Achashverosh represents HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that the beginning and the end are his, meaning he is above the beginning and the end, but still he acknowledges that there is a concept of beginning and a concept of end. So that means this is such a level where it is identified the beginning and the end, except that he's above it. And Shoheim Shovim Legabei. But in relation to the level connoted by Achashverosh, they are equal. The beginning and end are equal, but they're extinguished as beginning and ends. And the Rebbe says that we find it also the concept of Achashverosh in the narrative, in the story of Purim, that when Achashverosh gave the feast, so the Megillah tells us that he made a feast for all of his ministers and the servants, his officers and the servants, and then he made a feast for all of the people of Shushan. So we see that he made differences between people. And Achashverosh represents the spiritual revelation. And in the spiritual revelation, there's also differences of what is revealed. On the one hand, he made it for everyone, but yet it was divided to each and every one in their own level. So the Rebbe, it states that Achashverosh made a celebration for all of his officers and servants. And only afterwards for all the people found in Shushan. The Alter Rebbe explains in Likutei Torah, the revelation that to all the people was on a lower level than that granted to the officers and servants. The officers and servants, it was a bigger revelation of Achashverosh. And the people was a lesser level. Not only that, the Rebbe adds more. The Rebbe adds also that even among the people, the meal that he made for the people, the Gemara says that it wasn't all of them in the same way. There were some people sitting in the courtyard, some people at a higher level were sitting in the garden, and people on a higher level were inside. That's what the Rebbe says. Moreover, it can be said that within the revelation granted to all the people itself, there were several different levels. As reflected in our sages' words in the Gemara, that those worthy of entering the courtyard were assigned to the courtyard, those worthy of the garden to the garden, and those worthy to the pavilion to the pavilion. So just as on the material plane, Achashverosh made distinctions among the people, so too in the spiritual parallel, there are distinctions. It is possible to say, says the Rebbe, Shemitzad Pchinas HaIshtalshelus Agiloi Urak Lesorim Va'avodim. According to the structure of the Seder Ishtalshelus, a relation is granted only to the officers and servants. Because Ishtalshelus, by definition, is the structure, the godly energy that comes down, and it is filtered. Those who are a level of ministers and servants, they can see the revelation of the king. The simple people can't. So how come the rest of the people got the revelation of Achashverosh? Because that is Achashverosh. Achashverosh is above Ishtalshelus. Achashverosh represents the level which is above the level of Ishtalshelus. The fact that the revelation also extended to all the people, including those who are worthy only of being in the courtyard. Meaning there were people of such a low level, they were not allowed into the palace, not even into the garden, only at the courtyard. So why was there a revelation to begin with to these people? And the answer is because this is Achashverosh. It was because the revelation was from the level of Achashverosh, to one whom the end and the beginning belong, meaning a level of godly light that transcends the structure of the Seder Ishtalshelus. And that is why even the lowest ones also had revelation of Achashverosh. However, nevertheless, the revelation to the people was on a lower level than the revelation of his officers and servants. And there were also several levels within the revelation to the people. So what does it mean? If Achashverosh represents the end and the beginning is the same, they're all equal, then why is there differences in the revelation to the people? And the answer is they're all equal as far as he is concerned. But as far as they are concerned, they're not equal. He's above them. He doesn't care about who is higher, who is lower. He gives. But as far as the receiving part, those who are on a higher level receive more. So therefore, in that level of Achashverosh, although it's above, that's all equal by him, but still there could be somewhat of a difference. That's what it says, because the fact that the end and the beginning belong to him implies that in relation to him, the end and the beginning are the same. But with regard to the revelation of his light in the world, however, in the higher realms, in the beginning, his light is revealed more than in the lower realms, in the end. That is the level of Achashverosh. That there is above the differences, but still there are differences. However, when it comes to the level of Goyrel, the lottery, the raffle, the lottery is something that two equal things, two are completely equal, and you choose one out of the other. By contrast, the level of alluded to by the lottery, from the very outset, there is no distinction between the beginning and the end. This can be understood from the fact that in general, a lottery is made when there are two equal choices, as we said in the chapter 2 in this Maamar. When there are two equal choices, you make a lottery, choose which one. So there is no beginning and there is no end. So that's what it means, that it's the goyrel represents a level of godliness, which is much higher, that there is above, you don't see at all beginning and ends, and higher and lower. A relationship similar to that which prevails with the regard to the concept of the beginning and the end, meaning the hierarchy of what is above and what is below. This exists with regard to holiness and sitra achra, the opposite of holiness. From the standpoint of the level of Achashverosh, there is a distinction between holiness and the sitra achra. There is a distinction. However, it doesn't affect them, the distinction. And it only that because of its lofty nature, this distinction between Kedusha and non-Kedusha is not given that much importance. Therefore, it is possible that nurture will be granted to the sitra achra. As we learned earlier, chash the klipas neiga, v'roish the kimel klipas atmeis. The level of chash, Achashverosh, is a Achashverosh. Chash is identified with klipas neiga, the level of klipa, which is potentially can be turned into good, and Rosh identified with the three impure klipas that cannot be transformed into good. So on that level, there can be nourishment to the other side. Ve'acheti is gabrus sitra achar l'kedusha, to the extent that the sitra achar will overpower the forces of holiness. Hushcharu peneim shel Yisrael. As a result, the faces of the Jews became darkened. That is also what Achashverosh is. That hushcharu peneim shel Yisrael, that the faces became darkened. So because of that level of Achashverosh, it could give, being that it's it's lofty, the godliness is lofty, and whatever happens down here does not so much affect it. So it can give to the good, it can give to the not good. And the Rebbe brings an example also, what it says, there's a verse in Mishlei, it says, Shmam is beyadayim tetafes, v'hi behichal melech. Which means, it says the spider seizes its prey with its hands while it is in the palace of the king. So that's a verse in Mishlei. And the Chassidus explains that this represents the fact that even in the chamber of the king, where everything you have, you're giving obviously the chamber and the king who is catered, those who deserve. Yet there could be a spider in the chamber, and the spider can gets its prey in the chamber of the king. And even though it makes dirty, but it's not, the king is above these things. If it sits in the corner, does its prey, it allows it to be, it doesn't really take place in the king's mind. And that is the point of Achashverosh. In the time of Achashverosh, those things were allowed, the darkened the faces of the Jews was allowed because of that level that Hashem was, the greatness of Hashem was revealed from the higher level where Kedusha and opposite of Kedusha were allowed to exist because it didn't affect there. So that's what it says. It is possible to explain that above, based on the interpretation of the verse, the spider seizes its prey with its hand while it is in the palace of the king. Even though it soils the palace, the spider is not driven away. Since because of his lofty nature, the king does not concern himself with driving it away. However, all of this was okay to happen because of the level that was what happened in the time of Achashverosh, it was allowed to have the Jewish people suffer, but not to eliminate them, but to completely annihilate them. Even in that level, it would arouse some opposition from Hashem. It doesn't take so much difference, but not to completely annihilate them. But Haman HaRasha, he wanted, God forbid, to annihilate the whole people. In order to do that, he figured, I need to reach even a higher level where not only there is no distinction between the two, the Kedusha and opposite of Kedusha, but this is a level where nothing exists other than him. Haman, with the concept of casting the lot, he wanted to reach the level of Lot, which is even higher. And he figured, mistakenly so, that from there, he'll be able to reach such a high level to be able to eliminate the Jewish people altogether, God forbid. That's what it says. But not for them to be annihilated entirely, heaven forbid. Therefore, when Haman sought to annihilate all the Jews, heaven forbid, means it will never happen. What did he do? He cast the poor, the lot. He felt it necessary to access an even loftier and more transcendent rung of godliness. His reasoning was that from the level of the lottery, at the outset, there is no difference between holiness and the sitracha altogether. In particular, this is true based on the explanation in section 3 and 4 that we learned before. Because the lottery represents not only a level which transcends the Seder Ishtalshelus, but also above God's desire for the Torah and its mitzvahs. As we said, that the level of lottery represents a level which is above the will, above the desire. The Torah mitzvahs comes from the will of Hashem. The lottery represents the level which is the lot. You cast by lot, it's above the lot, because even when you have a lottery, that creates your will. You choose by a lottery, and then you decide, okay, that's what I want, after you chose the lottery. This is why Haman thought that in this way his evil designs would prevail. Heaven forbid, chas v'shalom. So by casting a level that is totally above all the structure and definition, where there is no difference between darkness and light, Haman thought that he would be able to snuff out godly light in the world by utterly destroying the Jewish people. Logic would appear to dictate that since the world has no independent existence and is brought into being by God, everything in the world should be conformed to his will, as reflected in the Torah. However, but God is God. He does not have to confine himself to what we understand as logical. To emphasize that it is his world, reflecting his own being. He allows for the possibility that events will occur that do not conform to the scales of spiritual logic. So, this is what Haman's plan was. But we'll learn in the next section that Hashem has even a higher level, such a level that is totally out of the box, a level that Haman has no clue about it. And that itself came from the poor, from the raffle, and that is why the name of a holiday is Purim, and that we'll learn in the next section. Thank you so much. All the best.